Welcome back. In sports news, President of Africa Table Tennis Federation, Khaled El Sali, has tipped Nigeria and Egypt as title contenders at the International Table Tennis Federation Africa Senior Championships holding next month in Cairo. Nigeria and Egypt have always dominated the competition, with Nigeria completing a clean sweep of titles in 1985 and in 1988. Nigeria's cadre is expected to lead the team to Cairo for the championship, which will serve off January 23rd next year, as he hopes to improve his standard and ranking in the new year. Mr. El Sali is also thrilled with the singular effort of Nigeria's Aruna cadre this year and believes the Portugal-based player has the potential to clinch the ITTF Star Awards. Super Eagles assistant coach Daniel Amokachi says all invited players, the Super Eagles home-based players for the two friendlies against Cote d'Ivoire and Sudan, must arrive at the Abuja training camp on Tuesday, December 30th. Coach Amokachi, who will be in charge of the two friendlies, warns that there will be no room for latecomers as the players have no club engagements. The game against the Elephants of Cote d'Ivoire comes up on January 11th, while the clash with the Falcons of Sudan will begin on January 17th at the United Arab Emirates. In England, Premier League defending champions Manchester City missed the chance to close the gap on Chelsea to 1 point. His struggling Burnley came from 2 goals down to claim a point at the Etihad. City were cruising when David Silva and Fernandinho scored within a 10-minute period in the first half. George Boyd and Ashley Barnes handed the visitors a draw. League leaders Chelsea were held to a 1-1 draw by Southampton at St Mary's. Sadio Mane gave Saints a deserved early lead, but Eden Hazard handed the Blues a superb equaliser seconds before half-time. In other games, Riyad Mahrez struck the winner before half-time as Leicester boss Nigel Pearson enjoyed a happy return to former club Hull. A brace from striker Mehmet Diouf gave Stoke 2-0 victory at the Britannia Stadium and piled more pressure on West Brom manager Alan Irvine. Arsenal moved above West Ham into the top 5 after inflicting a first home defeat on West Ham since August. UEFA President Michel Platini has again reiterated his desire to introduce a white card that will lead a player to being tin-binned. A 59-year-old Frenchman first presented his concept in October, only to be met by fierce opposition from football's world governing body. However, Platini is sticking to his guns. At an international sports conference in Dubai, he said the white card, as used in rugby, would send off a player for a few minutes, maybe 5 or 10, as this would be a new way to promote the game among fans. The former Juventus player also wants the offside rule also needed to be simplified in order to reach a larger audience. Michael Schumacher, manager, admits that the former Formula One champion faces a long fight for recovery as the first anniversary of his skiing accident approaches. Schumacher suffered severe head injuries in a ski incident in Maribel in the French Alps on December 29, 2013. He emerged from an induced coma in June and left hospital in September. Mr. Philippe Strafe says Schumacher is yet to recover his speech, but was nevertheless starting to recognize those close to him. Schumacher won a record 91 Formula One races, left the sports last year after a disappointing 3-year comeback with Mercedes, following an early retirement from Ferrari at the end of 2006. Still on the foreign scene, but away from sports news, after several hours of searching the area of sea between Kalimantan and Java, the Indonesian authorities have suspended their search for the missing Air Asia flight QZ8501. The plane had been on its way to Singapore from Indonesia when it went missing. Relatives and loved ones of the passengers are yet to hear any more information that may spark hope of finding the plane. This has been no easy year for aviation in Asia. 3 mishaps in 1 year and hundreds of lives lost. Today was not one these relatives hoped to see. AirAsia flight QZ8501 lost contact with air traffic control at 6:24 local time over the Java Sea. It disappeared midway into the flight of more than 2 hours from the city of Surabaya with no distress calls made.
We have deployed 2 aircraft from Indonesian naval aviation, one from Batam, MPA, Maritime Patrol Aircraft, and one from Juanda Air Base.
Helicopters and boats from Indonesia and Singapore scored an area of sea between Kalimantan and Java. Hours later, AirAsia's chief executive holds this press briefing to inform on the situation.
I think the Indonesian authorities are doing their best now for search and rescue. We don't want to speculate anymore. Right now, of course, they've been missing for 12 hours and there's a deep sense of depression here, but we'll stay strong.
He blamed the weather conditions for the mishap, saying there were storm clouds and the pilot had requested to change altitude, but the request could not be approved at the time due to traffic. He refused to speculate further. Neighboring Malaysia and Australia have also offered to help with the search. Pope Francis today prayed for the passengers aboard the missing plane, urging the church to do the same. Reporters on the ground say the scenario in Surabaya Airport in Indonesia and Changi Airport in Singapore are similar to when the Malaysian flight MH370 went missing. Relatives anxiously await news on the missing flight, each praying for a miracle. Airport authorities are doing their best to keep them away from the media and set up a room for those at Changi Airport. AirAsia said in a statement that there had been 138 adults, 16 children and 1 infant in the flight, most of them Indonesian. It also said several were from other countries, 1 UK national, 1 Malaysian, 1 Singaporean, and 3 South Koreans, alongside 2 pilots and 5 crew, 1 French and the others Indonesian. Rescue efforts have continued for an Italian ferry set to have caught fire on its way to Ancona, Italy, from Patras, Greece, carrying 478 people. Local media said the fire broke out on the ferry's deck early this morning. Ships and helicopters have been taking part in the rescue operation. 131 people have been rescued so far, 35 of whom have been transferred to a nearby Greek ferry by lifeboat. 1 person is reported to have died in the fire. Ferries are known to be an important mode of transportation between Greece's hundreds of islands as well as neighboring countries. Somali officials say they now have a top Al-Shabaab militant, Zakaria Ahmed Ismail Hersi, in their custody. Reports said police stormed the house he had been hiding in for 6 days close to the border with Kenya after receiving a tip-off. He surrendered to the police in the Gedo region shortly after. Hersi has been a leading figure in Al-Shabaab and has been wanted by both local and international forces. The U.S. in 2012 announced a $3 million reward for any information leading to his capture. His surrender comes 3 months after Al-Shabaab leader Ahmed Kudani was killed in a U.S. airstrike. And the main news again. Former Finance Minister Kalu Idika Kalu has predicted that dwindling crude oil prices may result in eventual subsidy removal by the federal government. Mr. Kalu, who spoke to modeler Sharafa Yusuf on View from the Top, said unless the downward trend is stopped, the nation must be ready to find other ways of cushioning the effects of oil subsidy. President Goodluck Jonathan has once again called on politicians to shun violent acts that could jeopardize the 2015 general elections. And Lagos State's PDP governorship candidate Jimmy Agbaje has unveiled his running mate. She is Alhaji Safurat Abdul Karim, who was also running mate to the late engineer Funshaw Williams. That's news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I am Amarachi Ubani. Good night.